RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, opinions, or statements of its guests or advertisers. The information on this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Comfy Sunday. As always, I'm your host, RP. Joining me live in the studio, my co-host, M3. And in the second hour, Mark Taylor, the Trump prophet himself. It's going to be an excellent program. We've got over 1,700 Patriots here already. Do me a favor, guys. Don't forget to like and share this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. Censorship is worse than ever. Live in the studio, it's a euphemism, IAB23. Methods is here on the stream, but he's not in the same room as me. I want to say thank you to all the mods. Let me throw on slow mode so your eyeballs don't burn out. Please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Watch the news and you'll know that nothing is normal right now. Things are getting worse, and we probably won't be returning to our old lives very soon, if ever again, with the way they're going. Now, what does this mean to you today, right now? What does that mean for the future? Well, it's very possible we could be looking at food shortages. And the question is, are you going to be prepared? Or will you get trampled in the panic that ensues when everyone realizes the local grocery stores are out of food? Don't let the coming nightmare turn you into a statistic. Make tomorrow's survival your top priority today by building an emergency food supply right now. I personally use and trust my Patriot Supply, and you should too. They are the go-to experts in emergency preparedness, and right now you can save $100 on a full 4-week food supply of their delicious and nutritious food that lasts up to 25 years. But you might need it as soon as next month if things continue on the track they're on. Don't let yourself get caught unprepared, not when you can get a 4-week supply of emergency food shipped right to your doorstep today. Go to preparewithredpill78.com. That's preparewithredpill78.com. Act now while supplies last. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Welcome back to the program. How is everyone doing today? I know that I myself am feeling rather good. Methods, what about yourself?
Man, I'm reaching levels of comfy I never thought possible. I hope everybody's doing good out there. No, I just feel good, man. I've been excited about the show.
Yeah.
Gotten a lot of great feedback about having Mark on. So, people can just listen to us ramble for an hour. Please stick around. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, most definitely, you guys. And the only way I could be more comfy is if I was like sitting in a nice plush couch or something like that. I do have this new background. I'm pretty excited about it. I hope that you guys like it. It's a video. Obviously, I didn't realize I could do a video until today. I just kind of figured it out. But oh! I also got my sports ball shirt. Look.
Gotta love it when an idea turns into a t-shirt reality.
Yeah. And it says Red Pill 78 on the back too.
Yeah, you're on a sports ball team now, man.
That's right. I am a champion, 100%. No participation trophies. I actually won sports ball. There's a tournament every Sunday. Here it is right now. So I want to say super big thank you to Gaffer Anon and to Mrs. Gaffer Anon for sending this shirt. This is great. Appreciate you guys. We've already got over 3,000 people here, guys. I appreciate it. I am just going to go ahead and tune up the slow chat a little bit more, because it seems like it is still going rather quick, and I want the mods to be able to keep track of everything. Now, I just want to make sure everybody remembers that once slow mode is on, you can only chat once every, couple of minutes. Please bear with us. We're doing that so everybody has the opportunity to send a chat. You yourself are not being censored. The only thing that is going to get your comments deleted is if you use profanity or if you are rude to the guest. Please, if you're going to be here, then be civil. It's okay to have dissenting opinions, but there's no need to be uncouth. So, Methods, what has been going on this weekend, man? What have you been up to?
Man, I've just really been hanging out, working on all the side project stuff to do the channel things that I will be doing, and then obviously watching what happened with Quite Frankly on his channel, and that for those that don't know out here, and we're going to talk about this later for sure. But what happened to Quite Frankly having his live stream taken down midstream with false accusations lets us know that we're kind of in a territory that's not it's not going to be friendlier at any point. So we've just been working on a bunch of that stuff, and also just enjoying life, man. Like, with all the crazy stuff going on, I've been making sure to take blocks of time for myself, hanging out with Miss Methods and all that stuff. What you been up to this weekend, man?
I went to the grocery store earlier today. I was a little bit, I guess, dismayed, because I was literally the only person there that wasn't wearing a mask. And it was pretty obvious that there was more than a few people who were just uncomfortable being around me because I wasn't wearing a mask. People, trying to keep their distance. I understand the whole social distancing thing, but come on, let's get over it. Let's move on. We have survived as a country for, many, many years. All right. And every now and then something happens and people get over it. But it's like everybody forgot how your immune system works. And it's a crazy thing to see, to look around and see all these people just cowering in fear in their daily lives, and here I am just, not wearing a mask, pushing a cart around. I don't care about those arrows on the floor. I'm just going to go to where I need to get my groceries.
Right.
But they had walleye on sale. That was pretty exciting. I'm a big fish guy, so I stocked up on 3 or 4 pounds of walleye, and I'm going to be eating that over the next couple of days. I did play some video games earlier today. That was a lot of fun. That's only something I have a chance to do maybe once a week when I do. So that was definitely nice to, kind of sit back and just relax, get out of this world and, play whatever it was that I was playing. That was a lot of fun.
Right. No, I mean, a lot of people ask me, they're like, how does Red Pill work as much as he does? He must not sleep, insert comment here.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody out there listening, Red Pill does take his moments. We leave him be, and he has his fun and all that. And like we said, we all need to do that. And I definitely agree with you on the whole, mask, no mask situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we've said before on this channel, or at least I have, that down here in the South, we don't really care as much.
Yeah.
And also what you're saying as far as the immune system, we also have faith, that God's going to help us through this, protect his people.
Right.
So I don't want to live in fear and all that. And obviously, if the whole intention of the media and, politicians and just the overall narrative wants you to be afraid of something, and they haven't exactly been the most honest people over the last decades, and alone the last since Trump's been elected. I'm not about to give them the satisfaction of being afraid. So I want to live my life, and that's why we're going to continue to be who we are, and we're going to keep smiling, man. They hate it, but we're going to keep smiling.
Yeah, I think of it as a knife in the back of the cabal every time I do something that is going to cause them that discomfort. They don't like the idea that we are living our lives unafraid. I've been here for a long time. I'm going to be here for a lot longer. When it's time to go, I'm going to go. I'm not going to let the idea of that stop me from living my life and doing the things that I want and need to do. Now, Neon in the chat asked if I was playing Titanfall, because we've been playing that together on occasion when we get a chance. But no, Neon, I didn't play Titanfall. I played I Expect You to Die. It's like a puzzle solving, James Bond style, I guess, game. But you're sitting in this room, a bunch of different rooms, and you have to figure out what to do so that you can escape and then get the intel out to your, I guess, whoever M is, or whoever Q is in the game, whichever one they are. Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And now that I'm done with it, I got to find something else to play. But I'm sure that won't be a problem. I got a bunch of different things downloaded. I mean, I love puzzle games. I love like figuring out, you know, how to get through something rather than necessarily just like shooting people. But the Titanfall is like a shoot 'em up, and you play in like these giant mechanized robots, and that's pretty cool. I'm like a sci-fi guy. I enjoy that stuff. So, you know, Sweet Pea in the chat wants to know if we saw Joe M's new vid. We definitely did see Joe M's new vid. If you guys haven't seen Joe M's new vid, then you definitely need to. I think that Methods probably has a copy of it so that we can throw that out there for you. But, I mean, it's already taken the internet by storm. I find it hard to believe that anybody here in this chat has not seen it yet, because it's a good one.
Right. No, as soon as Joe M drops a video, like when certain things happen, like when iPod drops a certain video or anything like that, we all hear about it, and we hear about it 100 times, and it's not annoying. It's exciting because we all know like everybody's getting to enjoy that moment. Everybody's watching the same thing. We get to talk about it. So yeah, I definitely have the link available for that. I had already seen the Joe M video brought up in the chat probably half a dozen times. So I'm dropping that for you guys real quick. Make sure you watch it, obviously after the show tonight. But it's just another knockout of the park, you know, for your sports ball reference t-shirt, you know, video. I mean, he is covering things, and yeah, it is a little haunting of a video, but it's the reality, and it needed to be made. Because when I see videos like that, and like I refer to iPod and anybody else making these videos and stuff, this is going to be held for future generations to watch. You're creating something that's handing it off to the future for them to see and understand this time now. Because I know a lot of people, especially the ones listening, you know, to these kind of shows, you know, we like to look back at history, even, you know, in the most recent history in the last couple of decades, you know, but to live through it, you know, you have a better understanding. So when you have videos like that made that make you feel in the moment, you know, and it's awe-inspiring because it's something that, you know, will last for, you know, lifetimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, this is why I think this is so important, you know, like what you and I and other people who are creating and documenting what's taking place, is because I'm hoping that this is going to be the curriculum for students in the future. We need to faithfully document the historical significance of everything that's going on in this movement, and where we're going, and most importantly, where we've been and what has come before us. Because if they get their way, they're going to destroy all of it, and people are going to forget. You know, humankind has a notoriously short memory span for anything, and if people don't get reminded about it, you know, then they get upset when they get, you know, confronted with the truth. I will say, did you happen to check my interview with Donald Jeffries last night? Did you see any of it?
I caught half of it. I'll just be fully honest. I had other things I wanted to do, and I was just tired. But no, that was a fascinating conversation, because you could hear, you could like listen to his wheels turning, because he has so much information, and he's got to condense it down to an understandable thought. And explain it. And to just have those kind of things explained to the public, because once again, like I said, we're going back in time. This is going off of, you know, reports, and then obviously hearsay at times, and trying to piece what was going on back before our time, before the internet even. You know, it's very fascinating, and like to your point, it's very important that these things are being created, they're being documented, and the archiving online. Imagine how many people in this movement are going to be handing down hard drives to their children of all this information that's getting worked on and spread everywhere. You know, I always I get a little tickled about it when people will send me even a meme I made when I got started, and they reply to my tweet with it. I'm like, oh, the meme made it back home. That's awesome. You know, it gets shared around and all this stuff, but the idea that we are creating this content with all this information, it's more important than the immediate. Obviously, we need to wake up people. Obviously, this election year is such a big deal, but you're creating things that are going to outlive you. And that to me is honorable. It's admirable. And I just absolutely love being a part of it.
Somebody in the chat said that, quite frankly, his video has been restored. This is something we were going to talk about. He was on stream. He was live the other night. He was reporting on some really benign material, like something from the Wall Street Journal, something from a leftist publication, and they killed his stream in the middle of it and told him that he was inciting, bad acts against people. I'm even afraid to say it to see if they're going to take this video down. Maria says, have you thought about making I Took the Oath t-shirts? That's a good idea. I mean, I haven't, but I mean, that definitely is a good idea. But if Frank's video has been restored, then that clearly is a big win. I mean, there was nothing in that video that should have been taken down. And from everything that he told me about it at the moment that it was taken down, I mean, it seemed to me like it was one of those AI, issues, unless there was an employee that was, just happened upon the stream and just didn't like his characterization of whatever he was talking about.
Yeah, imagine being, it's hard to, but imagine being a liberal, leftist stuff, and your job, you've been like, all right, you need to watch this Quite Frankly podcast, and they're saying everything that you just don't want to hear, and it's not red pilling you at all. You could see them get triggered about it and saying, you know what, I'm going to play God real quick and take down the stream, because I mean, it messes with a lot of people. And shout out to the people that reached out and let me know immediately. We got the clip of it happening over, sent to Twitter real quick. And, we got to support our own, because they're going to want to silence us. That to me was a shot across the bow, because he was live. It was not calling to violence. It was nothing like what we see out of the left when it comes to, like, when we see these videos on the streets, even of what they're saying to the police or in their protests, whatever you want to call them. This is, information warfare. I know it's a term used by our favorite Anon repeatedly, but it is what it is. We are fighting on this front, and it's that important because we can't allow them to erase history. They're tearing down statues. They're trying to change, spin what actually happened in certain things in real time. They were talking today to Nancy Pelosi about how masks should be mandated now. And she's like, oh, well, it's been long past that. We should have been doing that. CDC's just cowering to Trump. And it's like, well, weren't you just supporting all these protests over George Floyd? And like, it's just baffling how quick they'll pivot. Yeah. And they're like, it's still fresh and you're trying to get away with it. On top of that, we have a movement that's calling out everything in real time. And you're just going to pivot and try to sell it to the public. It's disgusting to me.
Kip says 10 minutes of your life wearing a mask is not much for a fellow Anon to ask. Is being selfish a sin against your fellow human? I thought Anons believed in a humanitarian world. Mask politics are for fakes. Oh, okay. I was going to say, Kip, I was going to come after you there for a second. I thought you were telling us that we were being selfish if we didn't wear masks. You got me. And then John Anon said that that at the moment that Frank's stream went down, there was a caller. Somebody called in and was asking about our favorite Anon. That really scares me there. If they're getting to that point where if you actually say the name of our favorite Anon, that they're going to take you down. I don't know, but let's try it. Let's see what happens when we talk about these posts.
Right. Yeah. We can get right into it.
Yeah. So, well, let's see, 4534. What is today's date? I don't even see the dates on these. What happened to the dates? Techmaster. Hold on. Let me pull up a different page.
We've just got 2 today.
I wanted to make sure. I couldn't see the dates on Techmaster Q's site. All right, so we have post 4535, and looks like maybe they're not. They haven't named them yet. I don't know if the people running QMap are not doing that anymore. No, they must be, because 4534 is named. But I mean, these are pretty straightforward, guys. It starts out a person's value. First is their vote. Second is their monetary value, tax contribution. But third, what is the third value that a person can provide to the deep state? Vote, monetary value, and then what? Any ideas?
Well, it can go in a lot of different directions. We can go pretty dark with it when it comes to certain things like, Planned Parenthood or any of that mess. But also, to me, human shields. What's happening here with using all these protests and stuff, pushing it. They're shielded. They're using it as a buffer to keep them safe, because it's the public itself doing these things, and then it helps the narrative. But yeah, I'd like to ask the chat, what do you think? So the person's value is 1 to vote, 2 to monetary value / tax contribution. What would be the third? What do you think the third is? I'd be interested.
Personally, I think that it is that physical aspect. I mean, how their bodies can be used by the elites, whether it is, for the extraction of substances, or as we see overwhelmingly in China, forced organ harvesting. David Rockefeller, he had like 9 or 10 heart transplants before he finally expired at the ripe old age of like 107, something like that. But yeah, right. I see people saying organs. Yeah. Oof. Yeah,
it's sad to think about, but that is the reality, because we've seen the reports on the black market stuff, things being sold like that. It's definitely, they say it's a high-end business, so I could definitely agree with it. Yeah, pawns is another one. They're used as pawns in general. I can agree with that.
Yep.
Slavery in the form of the control and stuff we see by the local governments and stuff. I can see that as well.
Brains.
It's definitely. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, aren't we technically in The Walking Dead? When we see some of these things, to me, it's just like, because they don't see it, and some of them just don't want to see it, and that's the saddest. That's probably been the saddest part to me, is not necessarily people that hear the information, they're shown it, not necessarily the stuff we're talking about here in the chat right now, but just in general, and they're given facts and proof, and they just don't care. That to me is like right there as sad as people that never got the opportunity to hear the information. But to me, it's like, how you're presented this stuff. Is it pride? Is it, you just want to see the world burn? It's all those different things. To me, it's just really sad to see. But ultimately, you can't win everybody over. You could just try. You plant the seed, if they allow it to sprout, if they take care of it, then yeah.
Honey, thank you so much. Real Red Pill Girlfriend just let me know that I had the call-in information for last night's show showing on the screen. So yeah, I definitely took that down. And I'm sorry if I got anybody's hopes up. We are not doing a call-in tonight. It's just going to be Methods and I talking for the first hour, like every comfy Sunday. And then the second hour is going to be Methods, Mark, and I all having the conversation. So yeah, sorry if I got anybody's hopes up. But going back to this, why is free thought ridiculed, challenged, and threatened when a person is opposed to the mainstream narrative? Well, I mean, I think that's pretty simple too. It's because that means that they are a threat to the mainstream narrative. If their goal is total control, then they need that narrative in order to shape the minds of all of these people so that they can continue to use them. And if people like you and me, like Frank, if we're out there and we are talking about things that are counter to that narrative, and we are using our free will and our free thought to think about different possibilities, then we are therefore a danger to them and their system. Now, also, Method, somebody in the chat had asked if we could drop Frank's YouTube link. Would you?
Oh, absolutely. Happy to do that? I'll go grab that real quick. And just on this point of where we're talking here, I'm going to drop Joe M's video one more time here and then move on from that. And by one time, I mean a few times. So there's that link there. Go watch Joe's video after the show, and I'll go grab that. But I'm noticing a narrative here that's happening by these checkmark liberal elite on Twitter, if you will, and they are pushing this narrative of Trump's a racist. So if you support Trump, you are a racist. It's that simple. And how dumbed down, common core level logic is that, right? Because why can't you give the option of people being unique, having different thoughts? Me and you even disagree on things at times, which is fine, but we allow those things to happen. And to make it that quick, the other thing is you're either racist or anti-racist. Well, what about if you're just not racist and you don't give any energy to it?
Yeah.
Why can't you be that? No, this whole like giving people 2 lanes of options and we're going to attack you if you pick the wrong one, it is bullying. And to me, any grandstanding on we don't need to bully any of these celebrities that have done that, they need to be shown what's being real bullying right now.
Yeah, and I also, Brian Johnson makes a point here in the chat. I just heard dead people are getting checks. I am Caucasian and can't even get health insurance, let alone a free check. I've noticed that every time someone puts the word white in the chat, in whatever the message is, it automatically gets hidden. Wow. And, that is just... It's a crazy commentary on how far this has gone. They want us to believe that we live in a binary world, that it's black and white. Okay, it's or whatever, Republican, Democrat, whatever the two opposite ends of the spectrum are, positive and negative. It's this or that, it's either or, and that's all that it is. But that is so far from the truth. We have many, many shades of gray in our world, in our society, in our trains of thought, in everything that we believe. I don't think I've ever met two people who have the exact same set of beliefs. And even if they're coming from the same type of background, everyone's life and memories and feelings and thoughts, they're all colored by your unique experience. And I think that is clearly how it's meant to be. If things are simply, this or that, and that's all that it is, then, the world becomes a very dangerous place. Everything that's happening right now is they are pushing us to be as close to that dream for them as we can possibly get. And if they can force us to believe that it's only two choices in everything, then it may become so much easier for them to control how we think and feel and where we go from here. And again, it's just what is so important about this election. For America to thrive, we need to have a variety of thoughts and opinions and ideals. We need to have our core founding fathers, the way the country was created, what we believe are Judeo-Christian values. But beyond that, people are free to make their own decisions as long as you don't hurt other people. And if you're not defaming anybody, I don't understand how they have been able to convince people that every other group in the world is permissible to have some level of pride in who they are. Now they've created it so that only the Caucasian people on the face of the earth are the evil ones, and they're the ones that should, feel bad about who they are. The idea of racism and prejudice, teaching us to not be racist and prejudiced was supposed to give us this ideal that we're all equal, okay, that we all start on the same foot, and we should be able to achieve something with the things that we do in our lives, and that we should all look at each other as if, it's a blank slate, okay, and then people should make their opinions about you based upon what it is that you do and how you live your life. But now it is not that anymore. Did you hear that in California, they actually got rid of the civil rights laws that were on the books there?
I heard something about that, but go ahead.
Well, essentially they just they deleted them from the records. Okay, there is no civil rights legislation anymore, and the reason that they did it was so that they could legally discriminate against one group, one race of people, okay, which is not even a single, okay, it's just, a diaspora of people with varying degrees of melanin in their skin. And so now, as a result of that, they don't have to hire based on particular racial standing, but they can specifically fire people or discriminate against them in terms of housing and stuff based upon who they are and how they were born. And I find that to be just shocking.
Right. I totally agree. And the same thing with Facebook and how they were going about based on skin color and if you supported the president or not, if they were going to silence you on that platform. We are in that. The whole idea of they like to do the identity politics thing. They say, well, if you're white, you must be X, Y, and Z. If you're black, it's this, that, and the other. And they're designed and they're designated to be against each other if it's fueled enough. Mm-hmm. And it's not allowed to be the same. We have conversations with plenty of people of all different races and stuff, and you could see it real quickly. Once again, doing these kind of shows are so important. When you have these discussions happen and you could see it and be like, it's not all like that. I lived in the South. The South is supposed to be, incredibly racist. I can count on one hand of people I actually met, and I was like, yep, that's one of those racist people. That's it. And I've spent my whole life living down here, minus a few jobs in different states. So I agree with you. It's intended for that, because what you have in this is if everybody's connected, they don't, and they're working with each other and all that, you've got progress. There's less dependency on government. We can all then agree, okay, they've been scamming us. We don't need them. You can actually do, a proper, I'll use the word revolution, but loosely. Mm-hmm. You can unite and do things in a way that can outgo anything that they can profit off of or control. And to have this world that divided and to see a lot of people buying into it. Now, I will say this, we have to remind ourselves of how many exactly is what 350 million people we have here, 330 here in the US alone.
It's about that, yeah.
Right. That's, and then you see a video and how many people are in the video. Even their biggest protests, how many did they have when they were doing the protests for George Floyd?
I don't even know, a couple thousand, you know? I mean, I know that I want to say it was in the tens of thousands. That was, you know, as big as it got. But I mean, I guess nationwide, they could have had a couple million for sure.
Right. But in the grand scheme of things, that's all you're seeing. And you think that's the end all be all. Right. What about the rest of the people that didn't? What about the people that didn't agree with it? You know, I'm all for free speech. I'm all for, you know, protest your things and all that. But when you're antagonizing, causing violence, doing all these things, you know, that's where it gets to be the problem. It's the system that we were born in. We can all sit here and agree that the system itself and how it's structured is a mess and it needs to be cleaned up. Whatever it is, it's a work in progress. But once again, if all the people got together as citizens to work on these things, then it rears the government essentially irrelevant to a degree to where they can't do what they want to do. And that ties back around. Now, we've talked a lot about how, you know, or not even necessarily us, like Trump with the law and order thing and having, you know, all this chaos going on and everybody's like, Trump, do something, you need to stand up. You know, Trump looks weak. And then, of course, the mainstream media is really fueling that Trump has no control of the wheel type stuff. Well, how many of you guys out there were losing your minds in laughter when Trump was tweeting out those wanted posters last night?
Dude.
Because he just rapid fire, he just drops them because you could see the writing on the wall. They were talking about it. Barr hinted at it. He would make sure. He goes, you know, there's a 10-year charge for that if you mess with the statue. You know, and then you have all these things happen. And then Trump did the right thing. He added no content with it. He didn't say anything with it. He just dropped them out there. And that's a warning shot that, to me, I personally loved it because we want to see that. It's not that we want to see, you know, all Democrats locked up or liberals locked up. We want, you know, essentially the garbage people of all sides to be held accountable if they break the law, if they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing, you know, to protect our country. And that also goes for across the world. I know we have a lot of international patriots. Shout out to all you guys for hanging out, especially the ones that stay up late. A few of you guys tell me you stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning to listen. So we really appreciate that. And I know you're showing it on the screen. That to me was just one of those, like, did he really do that? I had to double check. I had just hopped online, saw somebody comment about it. And you see, like, this is what's happening here, and they're being charged, and it's serious. And that's a shot that now you have a situation that's happened. Trump let you see it, you know, show the public of what this would look like, have it happen, and then now you're seeing law and order kicked in. And I was listening to somebody on the radio earlier. I can't remember who. I'd like to give credit. They were making a point on how through all this, the Democrats have handed Trump a layup when it comes to what one of the things that he can campaign on for the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Of all these things are going on, and this is the law and order, and this is what I want for the country. All these people you're seeing doing this stuff are going to vote for Biden or insert name here or whoever they're going to Trojan horse into it. Trump gets to campaign on law and order, and I will agree we need to see more of it. There are many situations that we can all agree without even naming need to happen, but imagine being able to campaign on that with action. Then that to me is going to rile up the base when we see all these narratives, and even people I've seen on our side say, oh, Trump needs to act. He's losing his base. I don't personally agree with that.
I don't agree either. Yeah.
It's the narrative out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see that. And I hope we see a lot more of it as long as it's just, then I'm cool with it.
Yeah. I mean, what they've done, and for some people, it's been effective. You know, I mean, they started all of these demonstrations in Democrat-controlled cities. They, you know, and even in those cities, it was a small percentage of the population, and even smaller percentage of those people who went out to demonstrate were the ones who were, you know, really destroying things. I think that, you know, maybe there was maybe a larger number of people who were opportunistic and went ahead and, you know, looted targets and stuff like that. But I mean, by and large, you know, like you said, with the entire population of the United States, it's a very small amount of people. And the mainstream media helps them out by putting it out on the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It makes certain people think that there is no hope, that this is how everything is everywhere. I haven't seen a single thing like that happen yet. I know that in my city, there was like one demonstration where some people were broken up with tear gas, and I don't think anybody ever came out ever again. But to the point here, I want to make sure that everybody here continues to stay confident and continues to keep their eyes on the prize here. They want you to believe that it's worse than it is. They want you to believe that Joe Biden is going to be victorious in November. When somebody sent me a poll from Fox News earlier today, which said that Joe Biden was ahead. I don't care who it is, okay? I don't care if it's Fox, if it's CNN, if it's MSDNC, if it's ABC, whoever it is. Those polls are lying. There is no way that the majority of the country is looking around at the mess that the Democrats have created, how they've completely ceded control of their party, how they're tearing down the monuments, the historical significance of everything that's been destroyed. And they're going to walk in to that voting booth in November and vote for Joe Biden. Absolutely not. They are statistically oversampling Democrats and people who are more likely to vote for Joe Biden. And somebody has said earlier today that if they get the mail-in ballot, then then that's it. Trump is going to be cooked. His goose is going to be cooked. Joe Biden is going to get in there. Do you guys really think that President Trump and the federal government is going to allow for that to happen? I mean, we've already been told from the boards that they saw exactly what happened in 2018 in the midterms, and there are safeguards against it to stop it from happening. And every day there's a new story coming out about some type of election interference. What was the story that just I just saw? It was a postal worker. A postal worker was caught on camera throwing a bunch of Republican mailers into the trash, not delivering them. There was people in New Jersey that just got in trouble. There was a story we had pulled up specifically that I wanted to touch on here too, Methods.
While you're pulling that up real quick, first off, we've got about 6,000 people here, which is awesome.
Good stuff.
And and 2.3 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, that would be great. Thank you guys for hitting us up on Cash App, PayPal, all that great stuff. And just real quick, retired POVM in the chat says something has to happen before November. And I appreciate your caps. I know you're serious about that. And I agree with you. I would be fascinated if we don't have something really, major occur in what we're essentially talking about. And for anybody new listening, we're talking about major arrests or about, voter ID, something of that nature. I'd be very fascinated if it doesn't happen. But I will tell you this, it's not even about trusting the plan. I have faith in God. I believe God intervened in 2016. He will continue to have his hand in 2020, and I'm still going to vote for Trump. That's Absolutely. How I feel about it. And it's going to take me the next 4 years after that to keep doing what we do day in and day out, to do everything I can to look back and say I did my best. Then that's what I'm going to do. And when I accept that, and it helps me get through the day. But I do agree with you that there's going to be this kind of moment in the next 3 or 4 months that's going to be like, wow, we're really in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be fascinating. But go ahead with the article.
So this is actually in New Jersey, a city in New Jersey. Officials have been charged after 1 in 5 mail-in ballots were found to be fraudulent in a recent election. So the New Jersey Attorney General filed voter fraud charges on Thursday against 2 Patterson City officials who allegedly engaged in mail-in ballot schemes in connection to a special election in May. So clearly this has happened very recently. They were watching, and they went ahead and charged them with this. It also brings me back to that judge in Pennsylvania who was paid off by a Democratic strategist to go ahead and do the exact same thing. If these people do attempt to cheat in November, you better believe that they are going to be caught and they are going to be arrested. And honestly, I have no problem with that. Let them set themselves up and let us get something to throw them in prison, because this is a sanctified thing here. The U.S. election system, they have completely controlled it and tried to cheat their way, and they probably have for many, many years. And I truly do not believe that it's going to happen in November. And if they attempt to do it, they are going to find themselves in a bit of a pickle. So the point of them trying to demoralize us is to make us believe that there is no hope, that Joe Biden is going to win. We're less likely to get out and vote if you truly think that there is no hope, but there is, okay? Like Method said, we have our faith in God, we have our faith in the plan, we have our faith in the president. We have to have faith in ourselves, okay? We have to show up. And just like Methods, if I got to keep doing this every day for the next 4 years, for the next 8 years, for the next 12, 30 years, I don't care. I am never going to stop. We are trying to undo a massive criminal system that has been perverted and built over the original intentions of our forefathers here in this country. And that is no small feat, okay? Imagine the things that we see in front of the camera, in front on the websites that we read, the stories that we read in the newspaper. Those are only the things that they are allowing us to see in the public domain. There is so many things that are happening behind the scenes, so many operations. Think about how many federal agencies they have working on all of these things. You guys have to believe me here. I know that this stuff is happening behind the scenes. I can't talk about certain things, okay? People who are here in the chat cannot talk about certain things, but it is not lost. We are in a really good position, and we are about to flip these people on their rear end. You have to show up in November to vote. You have to keep hammering away on a daily basis. You have to keep opening people's minds up and keep sharing this information. Do not let them silence you. Do not let them make you believe that things are worse than they actually are. We are in the best position of our lives right now. Right now, we are so close to winning the ultimate prize, to getting our country back. Do not allow them to fake you out here in the last, what is it? The last quarter? Is that a sports reference?
yeah, no, man, you're good. You're doing good with that. I appreciate that. Now, TL Spud in the chat was asking us, do you feel like the quote, look to Twitter, my fellow Americans, unquote, thing has to happen before November? Now, I'll give my 2 cents on that. If I were President Trump, which I could never do what he does and all that. I like my sleep, for example. I like my privacy. But I would definitely use that marker, because you know how much, Red Pill, you get asked about that all the time. When's that tweet going to happen?
Yeah.
My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. I would use that right before the election.
Mm-hmm.
Just rally the troops, use it right in the middle of a situation, have that happen, validate our favorite anon to a degree, and definitely just, drive it home. And that's why I think we have a lot of different things. We have a lot of different things to look forward to, as far as like, the investigations itself that are going to play out. That's going to have to be a part of the narrative, and the media is going to try to, get away from it. I see a lot of things get called out to where they're like, oh, the media didn't even cover this when certain things happened that were good. Well, that's our job. We have to make sure that it's out there across all platforms, to your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers. Make sure, hey, did you hear about this? No, I didn't hear it. I was watching the news. Well, yeah, that's fine. I don't trust the media either. Here, and give them the link real quick. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. You just plant the seed and walk away. Don't take it all the way to the more, interesting things that our movement likes to talk about. Just leave it right there in the real time, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities that we're going to have to step up in the next few months, because it's going to be a dogfight. Yeah. How many things are they planning right now? Now that we see these protests and stuff kind of dying off some, they've torn up the Autonomous, formerly known as Chaz, is my understanding. There's a lot of things that are happening now that they're gonna have to change it back to the mask thing and about the virus and take it in that direction. And we have to continue with what we're doing, regardless of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, here, let's try to get through the rest of this post, because there's so much to talk about. So then he says, 2, remains fixed, degree allowable by economic recession and expansion. So that is the monetary value of citizens. And then number 1, remains a variable. 1, dependent on a controlled system of information dissemination. So they get your vote by controlling the information that you receive. This is why alternative media is so important, and this is why President Trump's Twitter account is so important. And again, I said it the other day in my video on Wednesday. The battleground is on Twitter. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. These mainstream applications that allow people to get information quickly, we need to continue the fight on those things. I'm not saying don't go to Parler. Use Parler as well. Use Parler maybe just for your interactions with other people that have, like-minded information to share. But you have to keep pushing on the standard platforms, because there is things coming up in terms of that. We got Section 230, these antitrust suits against Google and Apple. So I think we're going to be able to reclaim them. Now, what happens when 90% of the media is controlled and owned by 6 corporations? We get what we're seeing, absolutely controlled narrative. What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? They push that ideology. What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? It's not news any longer, okay? You are not getting accurate information. You're getting information that is completely politically tinged in the way that they want you to think. What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? It is essentially serving the masters that are creating it. And what happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? Well, you turn to places like me, places like Methods, places like White Hat, places like Woke Societies, all of our friends here in the chat, 412. You go to the alternative news, places that you know that you're going to get the full story. Now, what happens when the news simply becomes an extension arm of a political party? We find ourselves in a very dangerous spot, like we have been for the last many, many decades. Fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. When does news become propaganda? Well, when all of these things are the case, and it's been propaganda for a very long time. Identity creation. How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact from fiction? The truth of the matter is that it's extremely difficult. And this is something we talk about quite often. I mean, we spend a predominant, amount of our time doing this right here. Whether it's, on Twitter, on YouTube, pushing the information out. I mean, I know that there are things in my daily life that I wish I had the time to do, but I think that this is more important when it comes down to it. This is why I don't sleep. I do everything that I need to do outside of the show from 2 to 4 in the morning, basically. And then I got to wake up and do it all over again, but I do it gladly. I am perfectly willing to sacrifice that time so that I can give everybody here the best possible content, so that I can give my all contribution directly to the president, directly to the country, because this is the most important fight of my life. And Methods, I'm sure you feel the same about it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the whole thing about this is, with there being that many, rabbit trails of false information that people can go down and then develop an opinion on something that's not true. Part of why I believe this process has had to go on for the last few years, as compared to what we thought in the beginning it would be a few months, 6 months tops. You learn how to read the news correctly. Right? Who you're reading it from. Yep. You know the headlines, what their intentions are. You learn the bad actors, you learn the players on both sides, and you've got the other ones that you put in another category of, I'm keeping an eye on you, and I'm talking about you, Lindsey Graham. We keep an eye on people just to see where they go and see what happens. But as you get through that over time, you develop, at least for me and a lot of other people I've talked to, you develop a way to read the news and understand things faster. Mm-hmm. You can move on through things quicker. And that's part of the reason why there's channels like this one, is we want everybody to get to that point. In a perfect world, everybody would know how to find all the news at all the time, and they wouldn't need anybody because everybody already knows, right? That's the end game. But people have lives. They've got children. They've got jobs. They don't understand or, how to go about these certain things. Some of us have lived in this world of research for a while. That's where we want to pick up the slack and help you. But ultimately, you're finding your own way to do that. And when you have time, because I personally enjoy it. I enjoy the hunt.
Oh, absolutely.
Things. Yeah. So, but it's not for everybody. We get it. But ultimately, we want everybody to develop those skills to where they can figure out things, because it helps, it helps you understand. It makes you feel better about it because you figured it out. And you're like, nope, that's not true. Mm-hmm. Instead of worrying about it because they intended for you to be in fear.
Right. And, to that point, the fact that we are here helping to distill this information for people who might not otherwise have the time, that's also why it's so important to me that we try to be accurate and to be dispassionate about certain things. I want to present the evidence and allow people to decide, how they feel about it. I never want to tell people how they're supposed to feel when they see something. Now, the majority, majority of people are more prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name. And unfortunately, that's what they've done. They've created that perception. Do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated and or shunned? And, this is something that I see on Twitter all the time, people ridiculing other people because they don't believe the exact same thing or see something in the same light that they do. And I think that this is a symptom of how they've created this in society. We've been taught to shun people or to ridicule people if they don't hold the same point of view. When Don Jeffries was on the other night and he was talking about his research into Lincoln and Lincoln's illegal actions during the Civil War, despite whatever the reasons were, the things that he did to keep the country together were technically not legal. Frank left a comment and said Lincoln was a tyrant. Whatever, Lincoln's, personal affectation was, that's difficult for people to hear. And when they hear something that doesn't align with what they've been taught in the history books, and I always laugh when people are, get upset about something because we know they've lied to us. Okay. How many times in history have they, killed somebody, a leader, and then made them out to be a saint so that nobody would ever look to determine exactly what happened? For all of JFK's, good things, the man had flaws. Okay, we all have flaws. We're human. So, when I look at the establishment and what they tell us about anything or anyone, I know that I need to look deeper to find what that true story is. Now, mainstream is used for a reason, dominate trend in opinion. And then they call everything else a conspiracy. If majority of people believe X, then X must be validated true. And we know that that is not the case. Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords and or catchphrases? Because they are all working together. Coordinated by who? Outside entity providing instructions? Do they count on the fact that people, human psyche, are more prone to believe something if heard over and over again by different trusted sources? Do echo chamber tactics provide validation, credibility to the topic point being discussed? Think about all of those clips that we've seen, you guys, of the different newscasters saying the exact same thing. It's the beginning of the end, Trump, whatever it is that they say about Trump. There are so many different examples of it, but they say the same thing over and over again. So then people walk out and they go to work and they say, oh, did you hear that Trump's a racist? Did you hear that Trump's a fascist? Did you hear that it's the beginning of the end for Trump? And then people start believing it. Did you hear Joe Biden is beating Trump by 10 points in the latest Fox News poll? They say it over and over and over again, the 4 a.m. talking points. That's where we have to be smart, you guys. We cannot fall for those tricks, and it goes across the board. It doesn't matter if it's in the mainstream media or if it's here in this movement. Okay? We are all giving our opinions about things. We are giving our own distillation of the information being presented. I don't ever want anybody to just take anything at face value. Continue to investigate, okay? And then we can have a conversation about it. You need to have an informed opinion about things.
Hey, before you move on, I know we're wanting to get through this, but Gail Grant just nailed it in the chat. Said a perfect God uses imperfect people. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. I mean, we can hold people to account of the decisions that they've made, and I'm not necessarily, forgiving them and looking the other way, because then we could say that the left is doing that about Joe Biden. It is what it is. There's a lot of gray area to that, but that's the kind of conversations. That's where we have public discourse, Discord, and like having these conversations and debates about these things, because it's not that cut and dry. This entire thing is not that cut and dry. Yep. How many times have we heard, oh, they did this, they must be a black hat. And we're like, right. We don't know. We really don't know, but we keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So, do they? Oh, yes. A threat to intellectual freedom. This is a threat to our intellectual freedom, and many people, without even realizing it, have been conditioned throughout their entire life. Would control over of these institutions and organizations allow for the mass control of population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Absolutely. Read again, digest. Would control over and of these institutions and organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Yes. And this is another reason why I tell people to be kind to people on social media. You know, too many people are just so quick to say, you're an idiot. How could you think that that's the case? If they are brainwashed, if they've never had an opportunity to get the real and true information, then you can't really blame them. All you can do is reach out to them with human kindness, okay? Try to help them come to it with some dignity. Because when people have their entire paradigm destroyed right in front of them, it is very painful. Let's see. Now, think BLM push every 4 years. Logical thinking. Why, after the 2016 election, did Dees and Media Corps jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding illegitimacy of election, character assassinations of POTUS through sexism, racism, every other ism? How much of the population still believes POTUS colluded with Russia due to MSDNC 365 blitz? Nancy Pelosi just tried to bring that up again. Said that Russia must have something on Trump. Absolutely incredible to think. I have no idea what the total percentage of the population is, but I'd say it's somewhere close to the majority of Democrats who are going to be voting for Joe Biden. Let's see. No MSDNC retraction of POTUS Russia collusion narrative propaganda. Why? Because they still want people to believe it despite the lack of evidence. Pre- and post-2016 election. Why were and are violent masked terror orgs such as Antifa immediately created, funded, and allowed to operate within Dem-controlled cities, safe zones? Why were these orgs tasked with immediate intimidation, shutdown of any pro-POTUS rallies and or events to stifle that dissenting opinion to their controlled narrative? Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, ism? When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. Control of the narrative equals power. When you are blind, what do you see? Nothing. These people are brainwashed. They want you divided. Divided by religion, divided by race, divided by sex, divided by political affiliation, divided by class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible, the controllers. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable, livestock-kept sheep. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink collective, and you have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. This represents a clear and present danger to the constitutional republic of the United States of America. They themselves are this existential threat to America, and we as a movement are the existential threat to them and their control, and they are losing the narrative. Anyone who is feeling weird or unsatisfied with what's happening, think about how far we've come, you guys. We are so close to the end. Do not give up yet. I'm not going to give up until I'm on the ground with the muzzle to the back of my neck. So I hope that you guys do the same thing.
Hey, man, well said. I don't really have much to add to that. I know we're about to bring Mark in here. I see a few people in the chat asking about him. No, you haven't missed Mark yet. He's about to come on board. We are really close to 7,000 people hanging out with us, which is great. 3.2 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue. Once again, thank you guys for any donations you're making through PayPal, Cash App, stuff like that. And yeah, we're about to get into it. Anything else that you want to touch on before we?
There's just that one last post. I actually wanted to give the Spunk a shout out real quick. So show that post here. So what he just put together a thread of some excellent proofs, which included Eric Trump's post on Instagram the other day. He very briefly posted a meme from our movement, and look at this. Twitter's garbage. It won't ever let me stay on the post that I want to look at. And it was a 2-year delta going back to post 1578. Look for more direct confirmations. It's time. I would say that this post from Eric Trump was, in fact, one of those direct confirmations, and the fact that it's on a delta, that really lets you know. Now, if the news is untrustworthy, corrupt, controlled, and simply an extension arm of the Democratic Party, how do you circumvent controlled lines of propaganda? How do you communicate directly with the people? Back channels are important. Information warfare. Knowledge is power. You guys, we are part of the greatest back channel that has ever been established in the history of the world, I would say. All right, I'm going to bring Mark in.
Exciting times.
Yeah, dude, I wake up every day and I am so stoked. I am so stoked for what's going on and for where we're going as a country, where we're going as a movement, and where we're going with our guest tonight, my good friend Mark Taylor. What is going on, Mark?
Hey, how are you guys doing, man?
Excellent.
Doing good, Mark.
Good. How you doing, Methods?
I can't complain, man. Another day, another day breathing, enjoying life, and keep trucking forward.
I hear you. That's all any of us can do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, we've got over 7,000 of our closest friends here to hang out with us tonight. People are really excited to talk to you. What have you been up to, man? How you been?
Just busy, man. Kind of doing interviews like this all the time. Just part of the patriotic movement. Also seeing what God's saying about all of this stuff that's going on right now, and it's like there's so much to talk about. It's like, where do you start, man? It's just like
right.
Information overload. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that's a good place to start. I mean, what are you getting from God on this? I mean, what are your perceptions of what's happening? We've been kind of talking about how we are moving towards a goal. There is real, concrete movement that's taking place. I know that Donald Trump is going to win again in November. I feel very confident in that. I have full faith in God. I have full faith in Trump. I have full faith in this movement. I have full faith in myself. But every single person here needs to have that same level of faith so that they can move forward without fear. Where are you at with that?
Well, Trump's going to see a second term, number one. I get a lot of emails. I've been getting a ton of emails. We released our documentary. If people haven't seen our documentary, we address a lot of these issues. I got part 1 and part 2 on my Twitter. I released it on my Twitter feed, but also on my YouTube channel, Mark Taylor Official. There's a lot of frauds out there that are stealing our stuff. So go to Mark Taylor Official on my YouTube channel, and you can see the documentary part 1 and 2 with me and my head intercessor, Melissa Leggett. We address a lot of these issues, but Trump will be in for a second term. I think it's going to be a landslide victory. There's some things they got to get control of first before all this, which we still have time to do. But there's a lot of fear out there, guys. And it's like, look, we need to approach this from a place of faith, not fear. God's been telling us for the over 4 years I've been doing this in my ministry now. I went public with this stuff 4 years ago before Q was ever on the scene. God was telling us, hey, there's going to be mass arrests. There's going to be rioting. There's going to be military tribunals. You will see people that will be arrested. You'll see people go to prison the rest of their lives. And you know what I mean? So, and then Q comes along, and he's kind of confirming everything that God's been saying all along the way here.
Yep.
And so, but God's been telling us this stuff has been coming, that the riots were coming. And I've been telling people for a while now that, look, if you live in one of these hot zones and in one of these blue zones, let's say, you need to have about 10 days of food stored up just in case. You know what I mean? Look, the president could still declare martial law in some of these cities if he goes in here and cleans them up. We don't know what he's going to do. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying just be prepared for the worst, pray for the best, right? So, but God's been telling us 4 years ago all this stuff was coming. So we've had 4 years almost to prepare for this. And so it shouldn't be a shock to anyone that this is really happening. I think what's happening, guys, honestly, that this is something that we've never seen in our lifetime. And a lot of people are shocked, in fact, to really see this. I don't think they expected this to be this supposedly this bad, if you will. And so to be face to face with this, I mean, it's shocking for some people. I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But this is actually good stuff that's happening, man. And people have to look at it like this. I'm not trying to diminish that there are some people that are in fact in these zones that are suffering right now. In some of these cities like Seattle, we've got good people in these cities that are suffering. I'm not diminishing COVID by any means. I know there's some people that have actually been sick, that have been killed by this stuff. But all of this stuff was designed to instill fear in people. And God's coming from a place of faith. And God's going to take care of his people no matter what. This is not our apocalypse. It's theirs. This is the wicked that's getting cleaned up right now. This is the systems that are getting cleaned up right now. So, this is all good news, man. I call this the full moon effect. Now, I've said this on other shows. I don't know if I've addressed this on your show or not. This is what I call the full moon effect. You ask any firefighter, law enforcement, ER doc about the full moon, end of the month, Friday night when the welfare checks come out, cutting, shooting, stabbings, you're going to be up all night. Forget it, okay?
Yep.
Nobody has ever been able to give me an answer as to why that is. Now, I've gotten hundreds of answers from people of their opinions. But so finally one day I took it to the Lord. I said, Lord, what is the deal with this? And he said, Mark, he said, what's the primary area of operation of the enemy? He said, darkness. When the full moon comes out, you're interjecting light into the dark, and it agitates the demonic, and they manifest. So what is happening what's happening right now on a global scale, guys?
They're having that light shined on them. Yeah.
Thank you. This is the Great Awakening. Okay, this is the light being shown into the darkness right now. It's agitating the demonic globally, and you're literally seeing the demons manifest. That is what's scaring people, and they don't realize it. Because what happens when you cast a demon out of someone? Sometimes it can get nasty. Sometimes it can get violent. All right? So this is what you're seeing on a global scale right now. These demons are manifesting. It's scaring people because they've never seen it before. And that's good news. Believe it or not. I know there's some devastation that's taking place. I know there's some destruction taking place. But it's good news because the truth is being injected into the light, and this is the manifestation of it. Now, is it going to get any better, or is it going to get any worse before the election? Well, a part of me believes a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to get probably a little worse before we get towards the election, so we need to hunker down and be prepared to go for the long haul. Everybody always asks me, when's he going to make the arrest? When's he going to make the arrest? Folks, he's already been arresting people, I believe. That's just my humble opinion. He's already been arresting people. But the ones that everybody wants to see is Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all these different guys, Comey, Clapper. They want to see him perk walked on national television, and they're not satisfied until they see it. And the problem is we live in a microwave society where if we get instant gratification right here at our fingertips instantly. And when we don't get it out here in the real world, they get upset. They say, oh, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And it's like, look, get your spiritual binky if you have to. I don't care. You know what I mean?
You're right.
You get your spiritual binky here, whine and cry a little bit. That's fine. But then be quiet, get back in the fight, because we need every man we can get, every man and woman we can get on the front lines right now.
Absolutely.
And so, but there's always something going on behind the lines here that people are not seeing. And this is not Donald Trump's agenda. This is heaven's agenda. Donald Trump was chosen to implement heaven's agenda on earth as it is in heaven, and justice was one of those things that he is to implement. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. It's bringing God's throne to earth, on earth as it is in heaven right now. So what you're seeing is justice that's coming down to the earth, it's being brought to the earth, and Trump was one of the ones that was anointed and appointed to do just exactly that. And it's like Q says, I like what Q says, there's no deals, man. These guys are going to prison. There's going to be suicides. We've already seen suicides. We just had a billionaire jump off the top of a building, which, did he jump? I don't know.
He might have had some help, You know
what I mean? And so you're going to have executions, guys. I don't know what to tell people. Look, we may never know that some of these people have been executed because it would literally start a civil war if we knew. And so justice sometimes, we've been praying for this. How many decades have people been praying? All those that have gone before us are praying for justice on the earth. It's here, and we are the ones that get to witness it. That's the exciting part about all of this, man. This is all good news. Yes, do we have some problems? Yeah, we got some manifestation of some demons, but guess what? Them demons are coming out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is the way you got to look at it. You're not dealing with people. You're dealing with spiritual entities that are in control of these people, and they're manifesting. They're coming out. So this is all good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
And Mark, and to that point, I don't know if you know this. I grew up as a preacher's kid, and when I had actually seen a couple different times where there was a possession, a casting out, if you will. I grew up in a Pentecostal church,
Sure.
and I never saw a demon just say, all right, you got me, high five, good game, I'll catch you around the bend. Like, no, it's a full-blown battle. It's a death throw. And also anybody who got into this movement, especially from the beginning, we knew to get to this point, it wasn't going to be pretty. They weren't, in the same vein of what I just brought up with demons, they weren't going to say, all right, you caught me. Ha ha, here we go. Good game. Hopefully, we'll get power back in 1,000 years. That's not, to me, it would be this messy to a degree. And that's what makes, I get that excitement that you have, because I have that too when I'm seeing these things, because I understand that means things are happening.
That's right.
Because otherwise we would not be seeing any of this. And I totally agree with everything that you just said, Mark. I think you nailed it.
Well, again, if we weren't, like you said, if we weren't seeing anything happening on the street right now, then nothing would be manifesting really at this point. So look, and again, I'm not trying to diminish that there's violence going on. There's people getting beat up. I'm not trying to diminish that. This is the manifestation of these demonic powers that have been in control of these people right here, is what this is.
Right.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I feel the exact same way. And this is, you can say it a lot better than I can, obviously, but this is what I hope that people are going to take away from this, because it is absolutely the truth. We are moving towards something that no one in the history of mankind has ever witnessed, especially not on a scale this large. And as I said earlier, I mean, we're undoing thousands of years of evil.
That's right.
Okay.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Not going to happen overnight. It's definitely going to take some time. There's going to be some growing pains, and we just all have to adjust to it. And, King Jesus asks, who is the billionaire? I think you're talking about Steve Bing, right?
Yes,
in Hollywood.
I think that's his name.
Yeah. So I don't know if he was a billionaire, certainly a millionaire, but continue.
Okay. So this right here, I just tweeted out, what was it, yesterday, whatever it was. You can't look. God's already guaranteed us the victory, guys. We have the victory, right?
Yeah.
So you can't have a great victory without a great battle.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the greatest battles in the history of mankind since the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ himself. And so this is one of the greatest battles in the history of mankind. You can't have great victory without a great battle. This is a great battle it's taking on. I'm ready for the great victory. I don't know about anybody else, man. It's coming. It's coming. We're getting there. It's going to be some pains before we get there is all.
Diane Bergman says that Ellen DeGeneres' show was canceled today.
Yeah, Check it out. They put a final date on it and ended her show. I'm definitely going to lose sleep over that for her tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big win.
Well, didn't Oprah also say she had canceled all her stuff to the end of the year or something like that because of COVID or something like that? I don't know.
As far as I know, all of those people are not working right now, and I think that that's a good thing. But I'm surprised to learn that they're not going to come back in some respect. I mean, obviously, I think that there's something working behind the scenes, and it kind of lends credence to the idea that I'm sure you saw everybody talking about Ellen having the bracelet on her ankle. So maybe that's true. Maybe that happened.
Well, the cancel culture also got a hold of her because of all the people saying, tell us your story about working for Ellen, because apparently she's a monster to be, working for.
Right.
So to watch them, that's also going to be something too, where there's going to be confusion amongst this side that lives in the world and the secular life. They're going to end up having to hold themselves to their own, different spins and tactics, and they end up eating themselves. And Trump can specifically can just sit back and let it happen. And a lot of us can to a degree, but we also kind of throw fire on it sometimes by pointing out those things and saying, hey, you're kind of, contradicting yourself from last week. So we're going to point that out real quick.
Right. And say, look, God's given prophetic signs everywhere right now, guys. We had an earthquake the day after the president's in Tulsa. In Tulsa, right? You had Tis the Law won the Belmont Stakes.
Yes.
Okay.
He's been giving us a couple of horse races there.
You know what I mean? It seems like for me anyway, he's been giving me these prophetic signs through the horse races, right? So I tweeted this out. I said, prophetic signs are being given everywhere. God is speaking. Tis the Law won the Belmont Stakes. Earthquake in Tulsa after the Trump rally has been upgraded to a 4.5. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 means judgment. There's a shaking coming, and the law wins, is what all that is. Now, we also had a huge lightning strike on the Washington Monument. I don't know if you guys saw that.
It did, yes.
Yeah, the video was incredible.
That video was incredible. One of the prophetic words God gave me years ago talked about a giant lightning strike and a windstorm would topple that monument. Now, could that be physically or metaphorically? Well, everything that monument stands for, it's a phallic symbol to Baal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Baal system, the Freemasons, all these things that are behind all the stuff that's going on right now. So, and I don't know if you guys saw the Time magazine cover a couple of years ago where Trump had his phone and he was leaning against the Washington Monument and it was cracking coming down.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Another prophetic sign given, okay? Now, I'm going to give this prophetic sign given because there's a lot of people out there saying, well, these guys are never going to go to jail. Obama's never going to go to jail. And Hillary's never going to go to jail. I get tired of hearing it, but, it is what it is, right? So there was a prophetic sign given. Now, let me tell you something. We were not going to know if this ever happens because it's just like if we remove 3 Supreme Court justices that I prophesied were going to be caught in a scandal. Can you imagine removing 3 justices at one shot, especially if one of them's Ginsburg? What would happen in this country? You start a civil war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think someone would just have a very quiet exit strategy, whatever that exit is, funky disease, whatever the case may be. They die, whatever. I mean, it could be, and the same thing goes with prior presidents I have prophesied about.
Mm-hmm.
These past 5 prior presidents, the evil crew of 32 that the Lord gave me the prophetic word on, that God was going to deal with these guys. 1 would be 2 would be taken, and 3 would be shaken. Now, 1 was already taken. Now, who's the next? I don't know. I don't know who the next one's going to be. It could be Carter. I don't know, right? But I am going to say this, and I'm just going to leave this for the viewers to decide. There was a prophetic sign given on the racehorse called Barack Obama. It was euthanized.
Ooh.
It did not die of natural causes. It was put down. Now, I'm just going to leave that right there for everyone to decide.
Right.
It works for me.
Definitely a lot to chew on. Now, real quick, we do have 9,000 people here hanging out with us, Mark. You're
awesome.
You're getting pretty close to our record here, which is exciting because of the topics that we knew that you would be wanting to talk about and be covered, to have this many people want to hang out. And we also have got 4,100 likes here. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, we still got plenty of show left. Share this on all your platforms. Let's all hang out together.
Yeah, please, guys, definitely share it. Thank you. I need to say thank you to Dale. He said, well, thank you very much, Dale. Isabella said, thank you for the positivity. Needed it. Glad to be able to help. And then Zalewski, thank you very much for that as well, Zalewski. And then that was on Cash App. And then on PayPal, I need to say thank you to Elise. So I appreciate all you guys supporting the channel. It definitely helps us keep going along. And I'm just stunned here. We got 9,000 people. This is going to rival the Roseanne show. We had had just over 9,000 people here when Roseanne Barr was on the show. So very, very cool. And thank you for everybody who's liking it too. We got just over 50% of the people here have liked the stream. 4.6 thousand. So obviously, Mark, I think we're totally in agreement. I mean, things are good. We've got a lot going on behind the scenes.
Right.
We just got to keep plugging along, keep moving along, keep trying to open hearts and minds. And, I think that we're going to be victorious in the end. I mean, I don't think there's any, question in my mind. And I hope that people here in the audience feel the exact same way. Have you seen anything that you think people should be worried about? Things they should be looking for? Anything that you think has been a warning?
Yes, absolutely. And some of this is on the pastor's side, which we kind of talked about pre-interview. We talked about Romans 13, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so we've got a lot of people out there right now worried about Romans 13, this, that, and the other. And I've been trying to expose, a lot of people have been trying to expose for years, but was the FEMA clergy response team. Now, for those who don't know who the FEMA clergy response team is, I'm not going to go into all the details here because we don't have time on the show tonight. Just search a matter out, okay? FEMA clergy response team. I encourage people to search it out. It was over 28,000 at one point, and it could be a whole lot more than that right now it was. But these guys, to me, were traitors of the worst kind, guys, because these guys, back during the day when Bush and then Obama and these guys, they were designed to literally help the government. They signed on with FEMA. They were to help the government during the roundup of Christians. They were to get their congregations to submit to the government, Romans 13, and to lead the government to your house, get you to submit your guns to the government, and then when they came to get you to submit to them. And then when you got to the FEMA internment camps, they would counsel you, if you will, or console you as you were split away from your family. And in return, they got benefits, protection for themselves, money, food, whatever the case may be.
Wow.
This is clergy now, okay? Now, nobody can get their hands on the list of pastors. I wish I could get my hands on a list because I'd expose it in a hurry.
No, we all want that list, Mark.
Yeah.
Right. So now, if you've got a pastor right now, we all know that the CIA, all these guys have infiltrated the seminaries. They've infiltrated the pulpits. We have government agents in the pulpit. We have, I call them CEOs in the pulpit because what they are, they're not churches, they're corporations. Let's just get straight to the facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
The corporations. It was never designed to be a corporation. It was always designed to be in the homes. Home group or home congregations is what it's supposed to be. So these guys come along and they get these benefits. And to me, that is treason on a whole nother level. You ever notice Q says it's always the ones you trust the most?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right.
Think that kind of goes along with some of this?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah. We're going to find out, aren't we? At some point, we're going to find out, right? So let me read you something here. This kind of goes along with what I'm talking about. Now, you can't find the FEMA clergy response team. It's a mouthful. And you can't really find it anywhere. I have found an organization called NVOAD, NVOAD.org. I encourage people, search that organization out. I'm not saying that's the FEMA clergy response team, but something stinks in River City here, if you know what I mean. And so when you go to that, there's over 70 plus organizations that's a part of this. And there's some pretty big names in there, guys. Some really big names, actually. Some of the biggest that are a part of this, NVOAD.org. Now,
Got it.
You got to remember that all this stuff is always disguised as help.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So now, why am I telling you all this? Because I'm leading up to this right here. These churches are Illuminati controlled. A lot of these churches. If someone's in the pulpit right now making you submit to Romans 13, that's already a red flag to me because guess what? Jesus never submitted to civil government.
Mm-hmm.
There are books written on this. All right? Chuck Baldwin wrote one. Jesus never submitted to civil government. So if someone's trying to push you into submitting to the civil government, that's already a red flag. That tells me chances are they're part of the FEMA clergy response team. Now, Illuminati controlled. They are literally get their 4 a.m. talking points like the news media does. Mm-hmm. These churches do. This was a YouTube channel back in the day. This is an old video. It was I think it was like an Illuminati training video.
Ooh.
Now it had Illumicor was the company they were talking about, which we know is fictitious. Okay, but you ever heard the fighting term? If you control the head, you control the body.
Yeah.
Yes.
You ever heard that? Okay. Everybody's ever heard that, right? Okay. Think of this now as a spiritual metaphor. If you control the head, you control the body. I wrote in God gave me that 501c3 prophetic word saying, you cut the head off my body. Basically, you cut the head of the Lord off. Mm-hmm. You have separated yourself from the true body of Christ because you are part of the Baal system, period, right? Mm-hmm. So the Illuminati knows if they can control the head, who's the head? If they're incorporated, the state is. If they're a 501c3, the feds are. The Baal is, right? So it's like we have a slavery mentality. We want to be governed over. When we, as the body of Christ, or the remnant, as the true army of God, out of this system, we're the ones that are supposed to be governing. So here's the thing. When it got in this video, this guy was creepy too, by the way. When it got into this video to the religious part, I wrote it down word for word. He said they control their opinions on current issues through policies designed and written by Illumicor. They are then sent to our ministers who then preach the word of God and their interpretations to their followers. Their blind faith is used to transform them into willing soldiers to defend our cause during the catastrophes ahead. As the final phase is enacted, we will propagate end-time prophecy to convince them of their convictions. And what's he telling you here? He's saying our cause during the catastrophes ahead. They're man-made. Mm-hmm. They already know they're coming. We already know we have the technology to man-make these catastrophes. And then he says the rise of Islamic fundamentalism works to Illumicor's advantage as a threat that will demand violent action. In the coming years, planned terrorist attacks will warrant a full-scale retaliation and initiate the final phase of the Great Plan. Christians will support these actions since they will believe them to be proof of end times prophecy by Illumicor's religious leaders.
Wow.
Wow.
I actually found the Illumicor video and I dropped it into the chat so you guys can check it. I'm going to watch it as soon as we get off here tonight.
It's from Peter Presswick is the name of the YouTube channel.
Wow. That is absolutely fascinating, Mark. And what you're bringing up here, and what we see this timeline that we're going with in Trump, this battle, judgment being brought down on the earth. But we can also look back, hindsight 2020, on what they were trying to do, bringing Hillary in, and how much they could have gotten away. Imagine, like, we're seeing all this evil now. It's hard to wrap our heads around, them putting, the virus into old folks' homes and having these deaths happen to raise numbers, get profits, push the mask, the mail-in ballots and all that stuff. It just sounds that evil and dark. Well, that's because it is. And we have this different timeline that we were going down, that they would have had control of this entire narrative on top of it. I believe all this would have happened anyways to a degree, and they would have had control of the entire wheel, and it would have been exactly why, to me, this is why God had to intervene in 2016 and why he's not going to leave us hanging in 2020, right?
That's exactly right. So when you look at the timeline, see, this is where I get in the most arguments with most Christians. They think, oh, America's under judgment. This is judgment against America for the killing of the aborted babies. Wrong. That's not what this is, guys. If you want to get down to who the judgment is against on the aborted babies, it's the church, because the church is part of the system. It's the systems that are under judgment right now. They became a part of the 501c3. What did the 501c3 do? It silenced them, shut their mouth. They couldn't say anything. They waited 10 years after in 1954, Johnson and all these guys. And by the way, it was the same year that the Bilderbergs was established. That's not a coincidence. So they waited 10 years to get enough of these entities. Yes, I said entities because they're corporations, to get under the 501c3. And what do? Take prayer out of schools. They wait 10 years later, 20 years into this, they got pretty much everybody under this thing, the big one, Roe versus Wade. Where was the church? Silent. The church is always the spiritual, moral compass of any nation, period. Where were they? Silent. The blood of those babies is on the church's hands. I hate to say it, it's on the church's hands.
It's true.
It's look, if I got all the 501c3 pastors in one room and prophesied to them and said, the Spirit of God says, give back every single penny you've made from under that 501c3. That's your only way out of this, and repent. All your assets, all the money, because that money was made off the blood of those babies, because you kept silent for those 30 pieces of silver. Guys, do you realize that even the Pharisees knew not to take that money back from Judas? Judas tried to give him the money back. Why? He said, because we're not touching that. That's blood money.
Right.
So, I mean, it's like, come on, man. This is not hard to figure out.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's shocking when you take a look and see what's happened. But I mean, at this point, the only thing that's really shocking to me is that so many people don't see it. I mean, they look at these leaders, they're sacrosanct, you can't say anything about them. The fact that anybody would call them out, how can you say that, that this is such a great, pious man? But unfortunately, it's the truth. I mean, they have sat idly by as society has just done this slow downward slide to the pits of hell, essentially.
That's right. Look, it's all about two things. All about two things when you're in the church system with these, especially mega churches. Wealth and influence.
Right.
That's what it's about. Wealth and influence, guys. Look, I just saw video of Joel Osteen marching on the George Floyd March in Houston. Now, this was public.
Yep.
And he's wearing his mask. And I sat there watching this guy. Now, look, I worked 20 years on the street, some of the worst areas in Orlando, ghettos, and I'm pretty good at discerning what's going on with the crowd and body language of something that's about to happen in the crowd, all right? I'm watching this guy in this video, and I actually started laughing a little bit, because, I mean, honestly, the street's kind of my element anyway. That's where I was at, right, for 20 years. And I'm watching this guy, and I watch his body language, and I'm like, oh, he's nervous. He's bad nervous. He's not liking this at all, man. I mean, at all. And I thought to myself, how sad is this? Because this guy, that's where the mission's at, is on the street, guys. But this guy's outside of the security of the four walls of the church building, and they're not used to it. See, he can't go. It's like we've gone from preaching the true gospel of Jesus Christ, the good news, by the way, not doom and gloom, and get people into the kingdom, to it's in the four walls of the church. See, this is where the church has failed miserably, the church system. This is why the church system's going down. This is why the home congregations is going to be where it's at now. Is the fact, I'll use Donald Trump as an example. When Donald Trump, even as an evangelist, let's just say, if Donald Trump sat in his office like the churches do and wait for people to come to him, this movement wouldn't be taking place right now, guys.
Right.
It wouldn't be taking place. What did he do? He got outside of the four walls of his office and he went and got them, which is what the pastors are supposed to be doing, and they're not doing it. They're waiting for them to come to them.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, Joel Osteen wouldn't even open up his building when the floods happened down there, right? That spoke volumes to me that he wouldn't let people come in during those floods. But just real quick here in the chat, we had a question for you. Ask him about the preachers that are with Trump, the ones that have been supporting him, the ones that have been there praying on him. And just to preface this, and I'm not to speak for you, Mark, but he's not meaning every single preacher out there in every single church building. He's talking about the system itself. But
okay,
yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Are they talking about the spiritual advisory board? Is that what they're talking about? Probably.
I
would
assume
imagine.
So,
Yeah,
but
it's probably the spiritual advisory board. I've been probably one of the biggest critics on the spiritual advisory board. I actually gave a prophetic word over the spiritual advisory board that there will be a betrayal coming. I've said this more than once. For months now, I've been saying there's a betrayal coming. There's guys that sit on that spiritual advisory board. I'm not saying all of them, but there's a lot of them that are literal vipers, literally. And Trump knows who he can trust and who he can't.
Yeah.
He's got discernment through the roof. His discernment's through the roof. I believe he could walk into a boardroom full of 30 people he's never met and go, yes, yes, no, no, as to who he could trust and who he couldn't. But that spiritual advisor board said there's a betrayal coming. And I'll tell you where it's going to be, guys, because the Lord spoke to me one day and he said, there's a clash coming between the Christians and justice. And it has to do a lot with the spiritual advisory board. Because what will happen is when the heat gets hot, I was saying this months ago, that when the heat gets turned up, the riots start, the arrests start, and I said it'll all come down to Obama. Because what will happen is they'll say, pardon Obama, because we just all need to get along for the sake of unity. You know, don't because I mean, look, we just need to get along because, we don't want to cause any more unrest or this, that, and the other. So just go ahead and pardon Obama. And what the Lord says is no, absolutely not. It's justice that's being served and it will be served, period. And that's what I would say to the president, because that's what the Lord, I believe, says right there. And I was prophesied that. And lo and behold, I've heard two spiritual advisory board members, and Derek Scott, who was actually on the news the other day, and he was praising the president, going on a rant, saying all the good things he had done. He was rolling down the list in this rant, and he said, and pardoning the first black president. He said, excuse me. And,
Wait,
and
what?
I went, whoa, there it is. There was number two. So you see the intent of these guys is to get them. So look, the president could never in a million years pardon Obama. If he did, he had to pardon them all. If he did that before his next election, he'd never see the next election because the patriots would no longer trust him. I don't believe the president's going to do that. I just don't, because it's been prophesied that I prophesied in 2015 that Hillary, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama would all go down, and that Barack Obama would be ripped and stripped of the presidency. And there's only one way I know that he could be ripped and stripped of the presidency is to be charged with treason, period. And so he will go to Gitmo. He will have a military tribunal, I believe, and he will go to Gitmo. And you heard the prophetic sign earlier. I'll just leave that to the listeners.
There you go. Man,
we may never know that happens
with
some of these people. You know what I mean?
Well, so let's do a hypothetical. If do you just think that Barack Obama would just disappear from the scene, or do you think perhaps they would allow him to, make some, videos from his jail cell, pretending that he's, in his secret mansion someplace in the United States behind a fence?
Honestly, I don't know. Hypothetically, I don't know how this is all going to play out, honestly, because when I had prophesied that the military tribunals were coming, I got attacked like you would believe, because people were like, what is this guy, nuts? Military and I went public with that the first time, the day after, the morning after Trump got elected. I did an interview, and I said, look, there's military tribunals coming. I'm just telling you, the Lord's been telling me this. And now we're seeing the fruition of a lot of this stuff, where things are being set up at Gitmo. There's been expansions at Gitmo. We've kind of we got military, Court TV came back online or whatever it was now. Why? Because they're setting up for some of this stuff. I believe it'll be some of the most watched TV in history. And I said the military tribunals would make Nuremberg look like a cakewalk.
I totally agree with that, because there's so much corruption that we know about, let alone what we don't know about.
There you go.
And you have so many investigations on why is this taking so long, that same kind of conversation you were having earlier, on the why is this not happening fast enough. It's because we're talking about pure evil being investigated and then planned to be exposed to a T, dot the I's, to make sure that it's legal, because they speak legalese. I believe that's a demon's second language, if not the first, because they use these things to control the world. So it's going to have to be used in that direction to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I do agree with you too. I do believe that Obama's going to get treason. It would be the best way to make sure this never happens again.
Yeah. I did a show about a year and a half ago, and I actually prophesied on the show that I said Barack Obama would be seen in front of the entire nation. He will be mumbling and stumbling his words so bad he will not be able to hardly make a sentence. And they will look at this man and they will say, this is the man that almost took down America. This is the man that almost took down the entire earth. Right here is this guy can't even make a sentence. And it's almost like a type and shadow, if you will, of, scripture where it talks about one day we will see Satan and we'll look upon him and we'll say, what is this? This is the guy that almost took us down. This is the guy that used to torment us. You know what I mean? It's almost the same thing right here. So, well, look, we got a lot of good stuff going on, man.
Yeah.
Tons of good stuff going on. Look at the justice system right now. Trump's put in, 200 federal judges already? I think it is. So that justice system has to be put in place, because we can't arrest too early, because if they go before some judge, they're going to walk. This is other reasons why it's taking longer than what people would like. And he said right here on, when was this? June 18th of this year here, he said, I will be releasing a new list of conservative Supreme Court justice nominees, which may include some or many of those on the list by September 1st, 2020. Wonder why he's doing that.
Oh, something tells me he knows he's going to need to
tells
appoint
me he
one.
knows a little something here that maybe be more than one of these judges is fixing to come up.
Yes, exactly. And I just want to say, Mark, we just hit over 10,000 people on the stream right now. So this is a new record in Red Pill 78 shows here. I need to say thank you to Virginia. Also, thank you to Ronald. Also to Hannah. She said, you amaze me. And with every program you share, your supporter since February of 2017. Love and many thanks for all your work. Love, Hannah. Thank you very much, Hannah. I appreciate you. Also, Kyle says thanks for everything, and Carmen Carmen says thank you for all you do. So I appreciate you guys for sending those over. It means a lot.
And we also want to say thank you to everybody listening that shared and liked this, because we wouldn't have hit 10K if it wasn't for y'all. Yeah. We absolutely want to hear Mark. I've been just sitting back, just like everybody else in the chat, having a blast with this. But we could not have reached any kind of numbers like this without you guys' support now. So we truly appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are the best, absolutely. And once again, Mark, thanks for coming on the show. Now, I've seen a couple people in the chat asking if you had ever prophesized anything in relation to Bill Gates or George Soros. Have you ever gotten anything on those guys?
No, I just know those guys are going down at some point. You know what I mean? They're going down. It doesn't really take a prophetic word or a prophecy to kind of figure that out. I mean, they're going down. Yeah. I want to pose this question to listeners, if that's okay with you guys.
Please.
Because we're talking about Barack Obama being ripped and stripped of the presidency, right? Like God has told us it's coming, right? You just had the president tweet that out about he's releasing a new list. Now, why would he say that? Now, here's the thing I'm concerned, or that I'm kind of throwing a question out to the listeners. If Barack Obama is charged with treason and he's stripped of the presidency, that means null and voids everything he's ever done in his presidency. Does that also mean the two Supreme Court justices he appointed?
I actually believe that it does. I mean,
come on now.
Yeah, it's going to be everything. Yeah, it's all or nothing. It's absolutely all or nothing. And we've got somebody in the chat also who has asked several times about Joseph Gregory Hallett. Do you know who Joseph Gregory Hallett is? He's this guy in England who says he's the rightful heir to the throne of England.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Any thoughts?
I just saw the video last night, literally.
Good time.
I haven't had time to really meditate on it, you know what I mean, or take it before the Lord. I've been at the beach all day with my wife. So, honestly, was there some truth to some of the stuff he was saying? Yeah, I believe there was. But I think we just need to kind of sit back and let this play out and just meditate on it and let the Lord show us what this is. Because some stuff I was a little like, not quite, this isn't really floating my boat a little bit. And then other stuff he was saying was correct. Now, the one thing I will say this, I wrote a prophetic word called All Roads Lead to Rome. Talked about this archaeological find that was coming, this dig. in an underground vault, and the find would be, or this find would be so cataclysmic it would rock the Christian world, and the answer lies between Jerusalem and Vatican City. Now, you got to be careful with prophecy because people think, well, that's a geographical location. Not necessarily. It could be the answer somewhere between Vatican City and Jerusalem, meaning, you know what I mean, written somewhere, you know what I mean? Now, here's what I believe is happening with this. I watched the video last night, and I saw a geographical marker where he was talking about something to do with Israel and the Dead Sea and this, that, and the other, and I went, huh, is this the find? Because he was talking about lost books. People thought, okay, is this going to be relics that are going to be found? Well, it could be, but here's what I believe it's going to be. I believe it's going to be books, scripts, scrolls, stuff that we've never seen before that's been hidden from us, from all these thousands of years. And here's what the Lord told me. He said, this find, whoever holds the information, this information of this find that's coming, holds the keys to the entire earth.
Wow.
They control the entire earth, basically. And so what the Lord, now there was another place where I can't confirm it, but someone said that they had found this find. It's been vetted, and that the NSA has it all the way back to the flood.
Ooh.
This information. Now, I can't vet that. That's just what I heard, okay? If that was the case, this would make sense. Let's put the pieces of the puzzle together here. The white hats have taken over the NSA. We know that through Q, right? We have control of the NSA. And so if that is the case and they have it, what's happening? They're controlling the earth now. We have it.
Yeah.
Because the Lord told me this is going to be a global deliverance, if you will.
White hats are in control.
So that would make sense if they had the information that we're now in control of the earth. They have the key to it, basically. And so we have control of it. But this information, I believe, is so big, it's like Q says, you can't just drop it all in someone's lap because they're never going to receive it. They got to drip it out.
Right. You know, and just to add some credence to what you just said, I just found an article, some archaeology news, latest Dead Sea Scroll finds add mystery to biblical origin. So I just dropped that link into the chat. I mean, this is from June 3rd, 2020. So this is probably in relation to what you were just speaking about. And that makes a lot of sense. You know, Mark, this is an excellent time to ask you about the Apocrypha, okay? The books of the Bible that have been edited out over the course of the last couple thousand years. I mean, what is your opinion on those? Because there's a lot of people who believe that, you know, the Bible as it is today, it's the Word of God, and that's it. And, it, you know, they don't take into account the idea that it has been edited, you know? I mean, things have been changed. Words have been added and taken out. What do you think?
Well, look. People always say, well, the Bible's the infallible word of God. Well, first off, if you look up the word infallible, you can't really say that because I've got like 6, 7 translations of the Bible laying around here. And the problem is that every time the Bible is retranslated, it gets watered down. Man has done that purposely. So you really can't say it's infallible. Now, if I go back to the original writings, if I had an original writings, all the original writings, then I could say, yeah, that's infallible. You know what I mean? But you can't really say that with what we have right now because it's all been watered down, including the King James Bible. I get people, don't send me nasty emails because I get people say it's King James only. You know what I mean? And it's just like, look, even that has been watered down now. I mean, it's a known fact that scriptures have been removed. And part of this find, I believe, guys, is going to be books and scripts and scrolls that were supposed to be included in the Bible, but were not.
Right.
Purposely. They were purposely left out to throw division and confusion into man. So, you know, again, look, the Bible, the way it sits right now, it is where it's all we have. That's all we have. So we have to roll with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ask for discernment. Look, anytime you read the Bible, I'm gonna give people out this right here. Anytime you read the Bible or the Word of God, you need to ask for the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of revelation to come upon you, because you can read a scripture. You know how you read a scripture 100 times or you read something 100 times, it just doesn't go in. And all of a sudden one day you go, oh, I got it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just did this 1,000 times. That's because there's a dark spot in your spirit. You ever heard the term, oh, the light bulb came on? Well, it's true. Because you had a dark spot in your spirit, the spirit of revelation came in and boom, you got it. So that was illuminated in your spirit, if you will. And so that's what that is. So ask for the spirit of revelation when you read the Word of God, because look, you can quote something 1,000 times. It doesn't mean a hill of beans. until the spirit of revelation kicks in and you get it. You know what I mean? The revelation of that particular scripture, now you have authority with that scripture. Just because you memorize a scripture doesn't mean you have authority with it. Mm-hmm. It's only until the spirit of revelation kicks in, you go, oh my gosh, I got this, man. Now you got the authority to wield it as a weapon, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It definitely makes sense, and it's also a timing thing too. There's certain points in your life when it needs to happen. Now, real quick, I got a question out here in the chat. Our buddy Neon Revolt was asking. I'm interested too. He says, I'm interested in hearing what relation Mark thinks all these events with Q and Trump have in regards to the eventual appearance of the Antichrist. Like, how do you think all this stuff that's playing out now correlates in relation to when the Antichrist is supposed to appear?
You know, I don't know. I don't want to put a timeline on anything. You know what I mean? Because especially in the prophetic, I don't like it when people put timelines on something, because even prophetic people will tell you that the hardest thing to get is the timing on something. You know, all I know is when I started this 4 years ago, the Lord said, I have denied the enemy's timeline. If America was truly under judgment, he would have allowed Hillary Clinton to come in here, and this whole thing would have been over with, guys.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
This thing would have already, look, can you imagine Hillary Clinton with all this is going on right now as our president? She would have been allowing it. We'd have descended into anarchy. We'd have probably been invaded by some foreign country. We'd be out here fighting some foreign country on our own land. You know, so no, this is why it's not judgment on America. It's judgment against the systems, all these different systems that have been controlling us, manipulating us, had us in slavery, not allowing us to think for ourselves. You know what I mean? And that includes the church. And so, no, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not going to put a time on it, because, I mean, again, the enemy's timeline has been denied. Look, in World War I, we beat the New World Order back. In World War II, we beat them back. It's happening again. This time, we're going to beat them back, and it's going to be a serious blow. They're not going to be coming back for a long time, period.
Yeah. You know, the problem I've always had with people saying that this is judgment on America, I mean, it's the same as blaming every person who's a Caucasian for the sins of their forefathers. You know, I mean, like, that's not what it is. It's the system that caused the situation back then. It's the system that has been operating, and that's what we've been trying to break out of. So yeah, totally. I get you there.
How do you hold an entire country accountable for something they had no knowledge of? It's only now that we're coming into the knowledge of what's been truly happening. So what's happening now that people are coming to the knowledge? They're waking up and they're screaming justice. We want justice. So don't think for 1 second that God's not behind this, the whole patriotic movement. Now, let me pose another question to the listeners. Is this the patriotic movement, or is this the spirit of Elijah rising on the earth?
There you go.
Great.
What do you guys think?
I mean, we could pretty much see, because Red Pill and I talk about it a lot, because a lot of things get caught up in the context of what we see on TV, what's happening in life and the secular world itself, politics. But, you know, there is such a spiritual aspect to this that you could feel it. You could see it happening, you know, and that's why I like that people like yourself are making the comments that this is, you know, demons lashing out. It just happens to be seen in the form of another human in front of you doing these things, and it's not, you know, registering in the form of how Hollywood has manipulated people to think what a demon and possession would look like. You know, this is, you know, the thrashing around and stuff. This would be what it's like. They would want to divide us. They would want to cause confusion. What happens when somebody's trying to cast out a demon? The demon tries to confuse and break down the faith of the person doing that to them. So that's what we're seeing play out in reality, in our reality of what we're seeing. And like we said, I mean, there's no way God would have started this without planning on finishing it.
No. And look, why would he allow Donald Trump to come in office? Why would God allow that if America was under judgment? Because there's something great that God wants to do, not only in America, but across the entire earth. This is all about the harvest, man. This is all about bringing people into the kingdom of God. This is all about taking down the corruption. Time is up for those who are corrupt. This is about taking down the corruption and ushering in a new phase of heaven's agenda, basically. And that is the harvest. It's all about souls, man.
Absolutely. Bruce Wayne said, this is my first time hearing Mark Taylor, and I'm blown away. RP and M3, keep up your amazing work. As a God-fearing conservative, I pray every day and start my day in faith and strength, sharing and red-pilling clients and friends daily. Does Mark have any insight on what's coming in Israel?
I don't know, honestly. I know I just read an article a little while ago where they're trying to do the tracing and tracking over there, and their pastors over there are for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just like, what is going on with the pastors, man? Seriously. See, this is the part where I believe God's dealing with the system, these pastors, because they're allowing the tracking. They actually have facial recognition in the churches here now. And it's a program called Church X, Church IX. And so people can look into that if they want to. All this stuff, it's a AI facial recognition, so they know who's coming and who's going. So, if you have a church that's doing this stuff, guys, it's a red flag, man. If they're forcing you to wear a mask, you're taking your temperature, and they're wanting to know who you are, where you're from, this, that, and the other, that's a red flag right now. It really is. I wouldn't be going anywhere like that right now because they're who's capturing this information, bro?
Yeah.
Right.
Information going to.
I totally agree with you. Now, real quick, I know that we've got about 10 minutes left here. It's flying by, Mark. I love talking to you. I want to make sure that we left time out for you to talk about Sword Rescue and what you're doing here. So will you explain, it's SORD, will you explain what this is? And I'm going to be dropping the links in the chat.
Yeah, I've got two different websites. I've got swordrescue.com, SORD rescue.com, and that is for all my prophetic words. They can link to my Twitter there. They can link to my YouTube channel, which is Mark Taylor Official. There's a lot of frauds. People are stealing my interviews out there, guys, putting cartoons to it. That's not me. There's nothing I can do about it. YouTube's really messing with me, all this stuff. So go to my channel, Mark Taylor Official, and you can see all my interviews there. If not, go to my Twitter feed, which is @Patton6966. No, that's not the mark of the beast. General Patton is in Patton. I get that all the time. Hey, you got 3 6s in there. It's the mark of the beast. No, it's not. Where's my thing at? I don't even have it behind me here. It's over there. That was my employee number at the fire department. And I asked the Lord one day, hey, what's the deal with the number, Lord? And he says, notice there's 3 6s that are divided by a 9. He said, 9's the number of judgment. He said, I've called you to prophesy judgment on the systems. I was like, that makes sense. So anyhow, the second one is sword.us, SORD.us. That's an invention that God gave me for military, fire service, law enforcement, homeowners. It's for rescuing downed victims out of a hot zone, or if you've got like a loved one that lives at home, a senior citizen that falls, and you don't want to hurt them getting back up and into bed, you can use them for lifting for that. I know we got a lot of animal lovers here. I'm an animal lover, and so you can use it for lifting your dog up if they're unconscious, putting them in the back of a car. At the vet, my personal vet uses 2 of them. So there's a lot of stuff that you can use it for, but that's at sword.us.
All right, and so anybody can buy that.
Anybody can buy that. Private citizen can buy it. Anybody can buy it.
All right, good stuff. Well, of course, you guys, we've got all of the links to all of Mark's sites, his YouTube's, Twitter, the personal website, business website. All of it is in the description of the video below this. And then also, as I've been finding these links and sharing them in the chat, I've also been putting them into the description of the video as well. So if there's anything you guys missed, then you can go, once the chat's over, go ahead and grab it, and then you can do some research on your own. So
people always ask me how they can support me. I don't take donations like a lot of people do. They can buy my book called The Trump Prophecies at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or spread the word help me spread the word about my business. That's the way you can help support me.
Awesome. And I mean, that's a great idea. I don't think that anybody has had anything like that on the market. I mean, this is a brand new thing, right?
Well, it's been around for about 14 years, but it takes a long time to get somebody like me and you. Like if our name was Mark Cuban, we could get something. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. We could have a product on the market and out on there in 30 days. But people like me and you, we don't have a lot of money. It's taken me 14 years to get to this point. So we've got some new people involved now, and it's starting to move a little bit. So
good stuff, man. Glad to hear it.
Exciting to be at that point in a 14-year process. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Okay, so let me ask this with the few minutes we have left. What's the future hold for Mark? Like, what are you going to be doing up to the election, or you have a couple-year plan? Like, what else are you going to be working on?
I really don't know. I'm just taking it day by day, letting the Lord show me right now. I kind of feel like I'm kind of in a hover pattern right now. You know what I mean? I think everything right now is in a hover pattern until the plan starts to really unfold a little more. I think when they start coming out with the FISA stuff, when they start coming out with the arrests, I'm sure there'll probably be a little bit more of a demand as far as, maybe interviews, or something like that. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm just taking it day by day. I just let the Lord lead me. Wherever he wants me to go, that's where I'll go.
Hey, that's the best way to live, right? Day at a
Yep.
time, walking God. Well, I'm sure after the show and as well as it's gone, we're going to be asked by a few people if you wouldn't mind being a guest on their shows. So we'll definitely make put you in contact if that's what you're looking to do. But there's going to be things that happen. I know there's certain markers we're expecting to happen in this whole process where we're going to have to rise up and make sure we have time for it to cover certain information, call out things. The election's coming up. And not everything is going to be done online. Myself being anon, you're not going to know what I'm doing in the streets to help out, which is fine. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting time, right? I mean, this is probably the most intriguing, go ahead.
This is the most exciting time to be alive right now, guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is all good stuff, man. Look, are we going to have some issues before the election? Yeah, we are. Now, there's a couple of things we talked about before pre-interview. We haven't talked about yet. I know we got a couple minutes.
Let's get into it.
It's like, there's a couple things that they got to get control of. One, the voter electoral fraud, which I believe by Q they've done electronically, and I think even the black hats know that, which is why they're trying to push mail-in voting, which is another reason for the riots and this, that, and the other. They've got to get control of that. Number two, they got to get control of the suppression of the social media, because what good is it going to do, guys, to release all this information, all this truth, all the FISA stuff, all the stuff, if the truth's not getting out, if they're suppressing it? Right. Now, I know there's been a lot of push going to Parler. I've started a Parler account. It's my same name, @Patton6966. I'm not leaving Twitter because that's where the fight's at.
Yep.
It's where the fight has always been at. I will not leave Twitter until the president says I'm leaving Twitter. When he says I'm leaving Twitter, then that's when I'll leave Twitter.
Yep.
But I have another account over on Parler. I'm getting it set up now, posting a few things over there, just trying to get it set up as a backup account in case I end up in Twitmo or, I get deleted completely, so.
Right. No, I feel the exact same way. I mean, there was just a post that came out this past week. And, we were clearly told that the battle is on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. I built this platform through everything that I've done. And, I've amassed all of these people here together. We can come to this one place. And, if they push us off of these platforms, then nobody new is going to be able to find us. If we have to go to a different platform, it's just going to be people that we already know. I mean, I want to be able to reach people who have never heard about this information, who are going to turn on this broadcast and be like, how have I never heard of Mark Taylor before? Who the heck is Red Pill 78? Let's start watching this other stuff, and then we're going to learn more about what's actually going on. So this is very, very important. Parler is just a backup. Somebody actually was sharing something last night about Parler. In their terms of service, it says that you agree to pay for any legal fees incurred by Parler in the course of them doing their business. And I haven't gotten into it too deeply, but it was actually a little distressing. I mean, I never seen anything like that in the terms of service. Right. So if anybody out here knows anything about it, I definitely want to know. Methods, did you happen to see that last night?
I haven't seen that.
No, I haven't seen it either, but there is this war going on should we leave the Twixit? Right. Is it going to be Gab? Is it going to be Parler? And we've said it before on this channel, but Mark, we agree with you. We're going to fight. I knew before getting started in all this, being methods, that I wanted to find the battleground. Where was the main front line? And it was obvious, Twitter. So we're going to stay there and fight. They take down my account, I've already got a backup. If they take that down, I have another name I'll go under. I'm not worried because we need to keep fighting in those places. And then when Trump makes the move, fine, we'll follow him there because he's who we voted in to lead this country. So we need to support him where he's at.
That's right.
So I'm all for it. Yeah, we'll keep fighting, man.
And then don't forget, we've got these upcoming antitrust investigations. Q just pointed back to Eric Schmidt again the other day. Google in specific is definitely going to be having some stuff against them. Also, the Section 230 stuff that the DOJ is working on. So, I think it's only a matter of time before everything gets opened up again, and then we're going to be able to communicate freely. We're not going to have to worry about being censored, and perhaps they can treat us like everybody else on these platforms.
Absolutely. And so, it's hard to grow your numbers. It's not about the numbers, but then again, it kind of is because you want the truth to get out there. You know what I mean? The numbers are not for boasting or bragging or arrogance. It's just for about getting the truth out there, man. That's what this is about. And so, it's hard to do it when they're suppressing the fire out of you, man, or they're messing around with you like YouTube is with me right now.
Yeah. What's going on with YouTube? I mean, are they hitting you with censorship too?
Yeah, they're hitting me with censorship. I'm getting shadow banned like everybody else is. I don't mess with Facebook anymore hardly at all. You know what I mean? I'm mostly on Twitter. And then YouTube. So, and I usually just post other people's interviews. You know what I mean? Is what I do. That I do. I really don't have my own content per se, but they're still censoring the fire out of me.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, and to your point about being able to get the information out. You know,
Right.
when you do a show and you look at it and you say, wow, you know, 50,000 people watch this or 100,000 people watch
Right.
it. You know, it's the idea of all of those brand new eyes that are getting on the information. You know, we're this whole thing, the Great Awakening, is about opening people's hearts and minds and delivering them back to the life they should be leading. And right now, you know, for many people, their entire lives, they've been brainwashed. You know, they've been under the control of these overlords. And now they have the opportunity to break out of that. And, you know, for me to have the opportunity to bring that information to them, it's an honor and it's a privilege.
Right, and look, this is about the good news. I know we've got a couple minutes left here. This is about the good news. It's not about doom and gloom. I wrote a prophetic word where the Lord said these pastors were committing spiritual treason. Yes, there is such a thing as spiritual treason, guys. I get the emails all the time. People were fixing to, you know, what worked 40 years ago in church, the doom and gloom message, oh, the apocalypse is here. You know, they're trying to scare people into the kingdom. It's not working anymore. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's about the good news. That's how you're going to win people right now. And so they're committing spiritual treason. Why? Because they're no longer saving lives through the doom and gloom. They're taking them. Because I get the emails, guys. People say all the time, they email me. Because you can be addicted to doom and gloom. So we were addicted to doom and gloom. We were fixing to commit suicide. I didn't do it, and I rededicated my life to Christ after hearing your message. And they're thanking me. And that's when the Lord started dealing with me about the spiritual treason that these guys are committing. It's all about the good news of Jesus Christ, period.
100%. All right. Well, listen, we are at the end of the show. Mark, I just want to say thank you so much once again for an amazing program. I really appreciate it. Just remember, everybody, if you want to get a hold of Mark, if you want to check out his stuff, you can go to the links in the description below. Methods, as always, thank you for being here with me, brother. I appreciate you doing this show. Thank you to everybody who was here tonight. Really appreciate it. Still just about 10,000 people. They know that the show is ending, so they're getting ready to go home and get some dinner. I know that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk these dogs. Thank you to everybody who did like and share the show. Thank you to everybody who did support us directly. Please, once this is over, you can still like it and share it. This is a very important program. I think many more people need to see it. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. I'll be back on Tuesday for Occam's Razor with Methods and Red Pill News. And